Since you signed the executive order that was intended to try, I think you were trying to ratchet back some of the controversy here, you still had more companies joining the boycott here. Bloomberg, Capital One, United Airlines, Williams-Sonoma. That's just on Friday. 160 companies have called for its repeal. You still have an NBA commissioner that is not yet committing to keeping the All-Star game in Charlotte. Any estimates that we have of lost revenue so far, we have come up with calculated, conservative calculations, 39.7 million, 186 million perhaps in revenue, and some have suggested billions in lost revenue. All of this now, do you have regrets signing this law?
I'm going to, as governor, as I did with mayor, I will always call out government overreach. In this example, the city of Charlotte, where I was mayor for 14 years, did government overreach. And what your pre-clip didn't mention was it was the left that brought about the bathroom bill, not the right, in the city of Charlotte, like the city of Houston tried to do and was rejected by 61% of the vote. The city of Charlotte passed a bathroom ordinance mandate on every private sector employer in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the largest, 15th, 16th largest cities in the United States of America. And I think that's government overreach. It's not government's business to tell the private sector what their bathroom, locker room, or shower practices should be. Not only the private business, but also the YMCA and other nonprofit organizations. And by the way, this is what 29 other states also do not have these types of restroom, locker room, and bathroom policies.
But
so
I thought, you talked about overreach. Okay, you say Charlotte overreached.
Right.
How did the state of North Carolina, the state government, not overreach in just the same way? You mentioned Houston. Voters made that decision.
Right.
You could make a case. Voters made the decision in Charlotte. Charlotte rejected it, then elected 2 new members of the city council. This has been a long debate in the city of Charlotte. This is where they came down. You guys debated for like 10 seconds. I mean, don't you regret the time of debate?
Actually, Charlotte's vote was a very little debate. They just had a lot of public speakers speaking for and against.
No, that night. But this has been months. This has been months of a debate.
Real quick, Charlotte had originally turned it down, just like Houston has, and there hasn't been outrage. There wasn't outrage toward Charlotte when they turned it down initially. There was an outrage toward Houston, Texas when they turned it down recently. But I tell you what I've learned through this is we've got to have more dialogue and not threats. I was in Hamlet, North Carolina, a small town that could be in any town in the United States of America. I walked into a buffet restaurant, African-American buffet restaurant, and the people just welcomed me with open arms and said, "Thanks for protecting us." I got back in my car and I got a call from someone in corporate America going, "Man, you got to change this. We're getting killed." And it showed me the disconnect we have between the corporate suites and Main Street on a very complex subject and a very personal subject regarding government policy of all things, which didn't exist before this group brought this up.
It's a very thoughtful thing for you to say about dialogue. Where was the dialogue in this? I mean, first of all, you didn't want a special session. Your legislature
I didn't want a special session.
But
the legislature, to their defense, we had an April 1st deadline in which the Charlotte law was coming into effect. And they had to pass the law prior to...
But you had said you weren't worried about that deadline.
I wasn't. The legislature, according to their lawyers, were, because they were afraid once it became into effect, it would be harder to overturn. And we can have the debate a longer time. But again, I don't think government should be telling the private sector what their restroom and shower law should be to allow a man into a woman's restroom or shower facility at a YMCA, for example. However, in government, and I'm not going to tell the private sector, any manufacturing plant, any bank can have their own policies. NBC can have their own policy in Charlotte, North Carolina, or anywhere in North Carolina. But I do believe in our high schools, in our middle schools, in our universities, we should continue to have the tradition that we've been having in this country for years. And we have a women's facility and a men's facility. It's worked out pretty well, and I don't think we need any further government interference.
But this, as we talked about, this law went further than that. It wiped away the city of Charlotte's ability to govern, to do some things on their own. For instance, they can't even have their own minimum wage now. Why'd you do that? Why'd you sign that? You're a former mayor of Charlotte. Could you accept all these limitations that big state government has put on city and local control?
I made a point when I was mayor of Charlotte for 14 years. We dealt with fire and police and airports and roads and light rail lines. We didn't impose new regulations on businesses. And I don't think the government ought to be the HR director for every business, whether it be in Charlotte or whether it be in Greensboro or whether it be in Boone, North Carolina. And this is that fine line between how much does government tell the private sector in a regulatory way what to do, And in this case, a city which I still proudly call home, I think overstepped. And you know, I've called out my own Republican legislature in the past with magistrates and I said, no, the magistrates need to marry after the Supreme Court case, what the Supreme Court said.
That, but you didn't, you know, in your executive order, you didn't, and you're not calling for a passage of protecting gay North Carolinians from discrimination if they're fired in the private sector. Why?
Because I'm not the private sector's HR director. I am the HR director and the governor of all state employees, and I signed an executive order which protects all state employees in the 9th largest state in the United States of America, the same executive order that the Louisiana governor just signed and got praised for it. I just happen to be a Republican governor, and I got criticized for doing the same thing. So I have to say there are a little bit of politics involved.
But with all due
here.
respect,
Sure.
Barry Goldwater had said this when they were debating whether to have the Civil Rights Act and debating whether government should be involved in dealing with racial discrimination. Right. And he said, I am unalterably opposed to discrimination of any sort, but not law that embodies features like these, provisions which fly in the face of the Constitution and which require for their effective execution the creation of a police state. The same argument was used to try to defeat laws that are now considered untouchable. Right? Laws that protect minorities from discrimination in the private sector. Why don't gays and lesbians qualify?
First of all, I don't know of any business right now in North Carolina, and very similar to what Nikki Haley said about South Carolina, that is doing this. But at the same time, what we've got to do is deal with this extremely new social norm that has come to our nation in a very quick period of time and have these discussions about the complexity of equality while also balancing the concept of privacy, including even privacy in the most private of areas of our life, which is a restroom, locker room, or shower facility in our high schools.
But gender identity is the same privacy. It's the same issue.
Well,
you know, the folks that are, they're looking for that same privacy. I mean, do you want somebody who identifies as a woman, born on their birth certificate as a man, may look like a woman, going into a men's bathroom?
All I can say is we have 27 states.
Is that fair to them?
We have 27 states. This is not just a North Carolina debate. This is a national debate that's just come on in literally the last 3 months. No one had heard of this debate until the Houston Ordinance was defeated by the people of Houston. We have 27 of 29 states that also don't have this type of mandate on private business, including the state of New York.
I'm curious about due diligence.
Sure.
Did you meet with any transgender people before you signed that law?
But I've met with transgender people in the past, and I've met with them since, and have had very positive conversations. Now, the conversation with a very powerful group called the Human Rights Council, my gosh, they're more powerful than the NRA, and they have millions of dollars, which makes me want to overturn United, because I don't know who their donors are either. But they are putting on a lot of pressure. Instead of having good dialogue, and I had wonderful dialogue with a transgender woman who is, and we talked about each other's issues. There's passion on each side of this issue.
Does it bother you at all, though? Georgia defeated it. South Carolina said it didn't need it. Does it bother you at all that basically North Carolina and Mississippi is the only other state that is on the side of you on this?
Let me correct you. Georgia and Mississippi was a religious freedom bill. This was not a religious freedom bill. In fact, we have not had any religious freedom bill introduced in the state of North Carolina. One reason is because I'm governor. So the confusion by the national media and the New York Times of Indiana religious freedom bill, Mississippi and Georgia religious freedom bill, that's not the case. This was basically a restroom privacy issue versus equality. And these things need to be discussed, not threatened by Hollywood or anyone. You know, Hollywood, with all due respects to the new Batman and Robin movie is playing in China, which has anti-gay, terrible human rights violations. This is not like an issue of bathroom privacy or restroom privacy in North Carolina. And let's have this dialogue, and I welcome that dialogue.
All right, Governor McCrory, is there any way this gets repealed?
I don't think the restroom. I do believe
that you would kill other parts of this bill.
There is one part of the bill that I did disagree with when I signed it, and that is not able to sue within state courts, and that needs to be repealed. It was very poorly thought out.
All right, we'll be